In today's video, we're going to explore 5 compelling reasons why this versatile tool is a must-have for any DIY enthusiast or small business owner. Plus, towards the end of this video, I'll walk you through the 7 steps to get started using your brand new machine. Laser cutters are designed to work with absolute precision and accuracy. Whether you're engraving intricate designs into wood, acrylic, or metal, or making precise cuts for custom projects, a laser machine ensures consistent results every time. For example, look how accurate and clean these small cuts are on this simple project. I'm not even sure how that's possible, but it's quite impressive. With this level of accuracy, your projects are no longer limited as they might have been before. In addition to that, it's very easy then to duplicate projects. Design it once and simply click a button to produce it over and over again. Another reason why you may find yourself wanting to buy a new laser cutter and engraver is because of its versatility. From creating personalized gifts and signage to producing intricate artwork and custom prototypes, the possibilities are endless. For example, here are some simple projects I made in a very short period of time. This is a coaster set made to look like real wood pallets. You can make things like puzzles, wooden artwork, and even custom templates like this one, which I used to make this custom walnut router tray. On top of all that, you can engrave all kinds of different things like wood and metal, and what's really popular right now is tumblers, and I'll demonstrate how that works in a few minutes. Time nowadays is getting very limited, at least it feels that way, especially if you're a business owner or if you're working on multiple projects at one time. With a laser cutter and engraver, you can say goodbye to all that manual labor and say hello to things like efficiency and speed, if that's something you're interested in. Whether you're producing large quantities of identical items or you're simply trying to meet a tight deadline, the laser cutter and engraver is the best tool for the job because of its accuracy and its speed. In today's world, personalization is key. So whether you're producing a one-of-a-kind gift for a loved one or a custom project for a high-end client, the laser engraver and cutter is really limitless when it comes to customization. For example, you can put names or logos on tumblers, like I already mentioned, cutting custom boards, and any custom woodworking project you are creating. And you may be wondering, how is it possible to engrave something that is cylindrical? Well, I was thinking the same thing too when I first got started. They sell an accessory called a rotary tool, which to me looks like a mini woodworking lathe, and it's an add-on item for most manufacturers. One end you have a chuck or a set of jaws that can hold a number of different items and a number of different shapes, and on the other end you have what I call a tailstock, or basically a central hold that keeps whatever you're engraving stable. Once this rotary is plugged into the machine and hooked up to the software, it automatically spins the tumbler while it's engraving. Pretty cool. With a market of customers nowadays wanting so much more, this laser machine can make your job so much easier. I'm sure this one is not a surprise to you, as I've been sort of hinting to it throughout the video, but if you invest in a laser engraver and cutter, you're going to open yourself up to a bunch of different business opportunities. Whether you're creating a side hustle or you're expanding an existing business, laser engraving and cut products can set you apart from the rest of the competition. And there you have it. Those are the 5 reasons why you may find yourself wanting to invest in a laser machine. Now for the last part of this video, let's cover the 7 steps to get you started using your new machine. Now you might be tempted to just skip over this step because it's so basic, but this really is sort of the foundational part of your learning to be able to use this machine, so stick with me. As you assemble the machine and read the instructions, take your time to understand how things are going together and how the manufacturer has designed the machine to work. Read up and or watch some YouTube videos like this one on how others have assembled it and maybe how they began to use it and what mistakes they've made. For example, when I put this Falcon 2 Pro together, this protective hood actually had some film on it. And I didn't take the film off before I assembled it all, so when I got it together, I couldn't get the film off from the inside. So bottom line, be sure to read all of your instructions thoroughly, take your time, and assemble this how the manufacturer has designed it to go together. Because there's a high-powered laser within this, safety is actually really crucial when it comes to this tool. So be sure to read and understand and follow all the safety guidelines that the manufacturer has set forth in their manual. It's really important to wear the glasses that the machine comes with to protect your eyes from the laser. It's also really important to make sure that you're working in a well-ventilated space or you have the machine hooked up to an exhaust fan. And here with the Falcon 2 Pro, they've actually addressed both of those safety items. First, this unit has a protective hood to keep your eyes safe while working, which is really nice because it's not always easy to remember to have your glasses on. Second, they have a built-in fan with an exhaust hose that I have ran outside of my shop. This is so important because when you're cutting, this machine puts off a lot of smoke, and that's not something you want to be breathing in. Again, I can't stress it enough to be sure to read and understand all of the safety materials that come with your laser. The first step within this step is to choose your design software. There are many to choose from, but for most beginners, Lightburn, in my opinion, works great. It's not very expensive and it's really easy to use. However, if you're not really good with software and technology, there are tons of YouTube videos about using this software. Once you have chosen your software, the second step is to start designing your project, or you can actually import a project. For example, when I had to make my custom router template, I simply used the tools available in the program to design it. I chose the rectangle tool, dragged it in to about the size I needed, and then manually put the exact size I wanted here at the top bar. I then made sure that everything was lined up, and I chose the radius tool to apply to all the corners. The other option is to import an image or a design. One of the simplest ways to get started is to buy something off of Etsy or a similar site. Many people have already done the hard work for you, and they have come up with some pretty cool things. For example, I got the mini palette design and the puzzle from Etsy. I added an image to the puzzle to make it easier to put together. So even if you buy something already designed, you can still change it or add to it. For some of you, the design process is the best part about it, and for others, it's not. So for those that are beginners and don't really like or feel comfortable with this design process, just know that there are other options out there for you. It's oftentimes during the design process where you actually think about the material or materials you like to choose. But sometimes you get started in the design process and you decide to go a different route or use a different type of material. And that's perfect because these machines are exceptional at versatility. Now, I do want to say that each machine, of course, is different. So be sure that you're using compatible materials with the size of the laser of your machine. The last thing I do want to say is for beginner material, I simply went to Amazon and bought sheets of 1/8 inch or 3mm bass plywood. I got a pack for under 20 bucks, and this is great because for the first few projects or tests, it will require you to waste some material. Next up is preparation. This may mean that you need to downsize some of your material or prepare it to get within the machine. And then the other thing, if necessary, to prepare the machine itself. Each machine will have a different working capacity. This Pro version has a working area of around 400mm by 410, which here in the US is about 15.75 inches by 16.3. Lastly, preparing the machine would consist of making sure that all the wiring to the unit and computer are attached. Make sure the unit powers up without any errors and that everything is hooked up and ready to exhaust fumes to the outside. There are two ways to get your design to the machine. The first is to download the cutting file from your software to a drive and then plug that drive directly into the machine. From there, you would use the onboard controls to run the process. The second way, which is much easier and gives you way more control, is to hook your computer directly up to the machine via USB. That way you're able to utilize all the cool features, which includes real-time processing as you're cutting and engraving. There are four main things that you need to do to get the machine ready to cut. First is to press the home button either on the machine itself or within the software. With the press of a button, the laser will find its home For mine, it's at the front right of the table. Next, you can install your material onto the bed of the machine and then press the frame button within the software. What this does is directs the laser to the exact cutting path of the proposed work area. And as you can see, I need to move my piece around just a little bit so that the laser is above the material at all times. Third, you will want to set the correct distance from the laser to the material. Most machines should come with a gauge like this one, which gives you 3 different setting levels. For example, the highest setting is for engraving and cutting 1 to 3 millimeters. The middle level is for cutting 4 to 6, and the lowest setting, which puts the laser closest to the machine, is for cutting greater than 6 millimeters. One of the nice features about connecting your machine through USB to your computer is that you're able to preview the work before you begin. For example, if I click on the preview button, I can play through exactly what is going to happen and in what order. So if I see anything wrong, I can make corrections before I begin. Lastly, you will want to run a materials test for the laser. What this means is that you're taking a scrap piece of material, ideally the same material that you're using on your project, and run a few tests comparing different speeds and different power levels for the laser. For example, here you can see I ran 2 different tests on the material. These test setups come right from within the software program, so you don't have to build them yourself. This one is a test for engraving, and I chose a test range from 500 millimeters per minute to 6,000 and a power setting from 10% to 40%. You can see that there is a variation in color, but there is also a variation in thickness, which is hard to see on the camera. The ones on the far right are much deeper into the wood. This test here to the left is a test for cutting, and I chose a range from 120 to 2000, 10 to 100% on the power. In this test, almost everything in the 120 speed cuts through, and it steps up from there. With these, I can now confidently know my settings when I go to run my first test on my actual project. This might be the most important step, and in most cases, it's a great idea to run a test after you've collected all of your information on what you think might be the best settings, theoretically, if they're actually going to work on your project. But be warned, you may need to waste some material in order to get things just right. And that means you also might have to waste a tumbler or 2 in order to get it perfect before you batch out a whole bunch for a company. For example, this video, I simply went to Walmart and bought 2 very cheap tumblers just to practice on. However, it sometimes happens that you have to burn through one of the good products in order to get things perfect. And this will get better over time as you gain more experience, but in the beginning, just plan on wasting a little bit of material to get your projects off the ground. This tool, like all my other tools in the workshop, take a little bit of time to learn. So be patient with it, make some mistakes, ruin some projects. It's okay. That's all a part of the learning process. If you'd like to learn more about this specific machine, I'll leave a link down in the notes section below. And of course, if you have any other questions about woodworking, carpentry related, you can email me, you can hit me up in the comments, find me on Instagram. I hope you're having a blessed day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.